ReImagining the Past, Immersive Visit to Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra. The aim of the ReImagining the Past project is to retell the stories of Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra in the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah. This was a tidal island and town that was inhabited up to the unification of the United Arab Emirates in 1971. For the most part, abandoned since then, the town stands as a material artifact of a community that merged into the new federation. Stemming from ancient times of the medieval Julfar settlement, a bit more to the north of today's Ras Al Khaimah, Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra is located on the trade routes between Asia, India, and Europe. Using technologies of photogrammetry and volumetric time-based videography, this presentation explores the potential of immersive storytelling using the aesthetic of 3D point clouds and mesh representational modes and models. Capturing the present state of archaeological excavations, urban fabric in decay, and ongoing restorations implemented by the Ras Al Khaimah Department of Antiquities and Museums under the auspices of the UAE Ministry of Infrastructure Development, this project integrates artistic, digital reconstructions and stories of the lifestyle in the past as retold by its inhabitants. Findings of this research project are formalized in a series of prototypes and models that respond to the need for storytelling and user experience design in contemporary museum environments, retelling the history in the context of the local, regional, and global relations. Project timeline and information sources. Literature data collection. In the first phase of this project that started in late 2018, we delved into existing academic research on the Gulf, Julfar, Ras Al Khaimah, and Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra in particular. As a review of the literature clearly shows, early studies of Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra have focused on documenting seafaring routes and security, whereas those done later focused on surveying the very coast and the region's economy. From the brief encounters with Ottoman, Dutch, Portuguese explorers of the Gulf mapping the maritime routes to India and beyond, to the more protracted presence of the British in the late 18th and early 19th century, most of the archival material available was produced by Westerners. British influence and power at sea led to the first complete surveys of the southern Gulf's coastline, and via a series of treaties, the creation of the Trucial Coast. Eventually, over a relatively short period of time, this truce principle expanded inland, which gave rise to the establishment of the Trucial States. With the announcement of the withdrawal of the British in the late 1960s, the Trucial region unites into the United Arab Emirates of today. The work of J.G. Lorimer in the early 19th and Sir Wilfred Thesiger, aka Mubarak bin London, in the mid-90s provided much of the background information for the development of ReImagining the Past. Further archaeological studies or surveys and excavations by Derek Kennett in the early 1990s and 2000s in the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah provided very useful reference materials for identifying the structures in both Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra and Al-Khat farm oasis that was predominantly settled by Al-Zahabi tribe. As Kennett notes, citing Lorimer, large sections of the Zahab tribe moved from Jazirah Al-Hamra to their date palms at Khat each year. Conducting a study of architectural structures of the Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra, Ronald W. Hawker, then a professor at Zayed University, led a group of local female students and documented the clusters of the neighborhood's regions and identified certain houses belonging to the Al-Sheikh family with the lineage to the Al-Zahab tribe. Voices of the people from the area are recorded in an amazing repository of stories published in a book titled People of Ras Al Khaimah. Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra was a community whose economy depended in large measure on pearl fishing and maritime trade. a chapter on mercantile practices of Sea of Pearls by Robert A. Carter, opens with the following quote. "Pearl trade is quite unlike any other trade or industry. The dealer cannot find anyone to take his place. He alone must buy and sell. No one lot of pearls is like any other, and each purchase is a separate transaction." Throughout our research on stories from Jazirah Al-Hamra, the ambiguity of oral histories was in evidence in many cases. For me, as a non-Arabic speaker, historical and sociocultural separation from the original context and understanding entirely dependent on a translation often resulted in loss of confidence. This is where sources like Carter's Sea of Pearls brought important clarity. Following the collection and analysis of precedent archaeological and ethnographic data, and focusing on use of contemporary technologies of geographic information systems (GIS) and photogrammetry data collection, a survey of most significant structures and sites that were connected to the seasonal cycles of life of Jazirah Al-Hamra inhabitants in a broader regional context was initiated. Primary part of the survey was photogrammetry with aerial-based acquisition of images and data. This data was key to reconstruction of 3D digital architectural models. These included fortification structures and residential clusters that were highlighted and identified during initial research. 3 primary geographical locations were identified: Al-Daya in Al-Rams area, Julfar and Al-Mataf as well, Al-Khat, and Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra. Connection to the medieval times and arrival of the British was made by reconstructions of Daya Fort, which is located on a hill overseeing Al-Rams area to the north of Ras Al Khaimah. The structure is selected due to its historical significance as the last point of resistance to the British Empire in their quest of taking over control of the coastal areas of the southern Gulf. Al-Daya Fort and farming area is located in the general proximity of the medieval town of Julfar and Al-Mataf, once the second most significant pearl fishing and trading site in the Gulf besides Bahrain. The main site of our interest was the very Jazirah Al-Hamra, often referred to Al-Jazirah Al-Zaab, with its still standing towers, many of which have been restored in the late 2000s in an effort by the Federal Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Department of Antiquities of Ras Al Khaimah to create a heritage village of Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra. 2 stone towers that once stood on the coast protecting access to the tidal island from land, Ras Al Khaimah from north, Jiri Plain from the east, and the Emirate of Al Quwain from south, have been prominent structures to document. In the very center of Jazirah Al-Hamra, the Al-Zaab Sheikh Fort, once also the Sheikh's residence, was undergoing restoration from 2018 to 2019, and thus we scanned it several times, documenting progress of reconstruction together with its adjacent houses and structures. In early 2020, scanning of the Al-Zabi Mosque with the minaret and the corniche, the merchant Abdul Karim Wind Tower House, the Pearl Merchant Umran House with double-storied majlis, and Pearl Divers Winter Square Tower House were completed. At location in Jazirah Al-Hamra, a dedicated team of experts is ensuring the proper restoration techniques and methods are being followed using original and authentic building materials, primarily coral, sea stone, and seashell bricks. Third location and storyline is the town of Al-Khat, which was the summer residence of the Zaab people of Jazirah Al-Hamra. As per the Canet survey, we have located 4 towers that were essential to protecting and safeguarding this farming and palm oasis. Digital content creation workflow. Large amounts of image and video data have been processed using Reality Capture as our software platform of choice in order to develop models of various levels of detail necessary for integration into the digital storytelling environment. We utilized Reality Capture, MeshLab, and Cloud Compare as the software packages and applications. Final models were exported as PLYs and OBJs, thus giving us an opportunity to explore a range of aesthetic approaches of representation, as you can see in the examples here. Integration of AR and VR content for this immersive experience is taking place in Unity 3D game development engine. In consultation with Neo Analog Media Production Studio, we created a range of prototypes focusing on testing linear and more hybrid ways of storytelling. In addition to content creation using photogrammetry, a range of digital creation platforms in VR environment has been tested. VR applications like Gravity Sketch, and in VR, Tilt Brush, and Oculus Studio's Medium have been used to create characters, props, and additions to the environments. To bring characters to life in this immersive environment, we considered a range of options. Rather than focusing exclusively on modeling characters in traditional 3D software packages or representing them as a photorealistic video recording, we decided to test volumetric time-based character reconstruction using DepthKit software in combination with Microsoft's Azure Kinect unit. This approach gave us both depth and image information we further processed to fit the aesthetic of point cloud environments, retelling intangible fragments of the life in the past. Designing immersive experience, storytelling method. ReImagining the past aims to provide the context of life and development of Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra. Taking a role of a visitor to the village, user is invited to observe, follow, and interact with its inhabitants and their everyday activities and chores. By following a predefined story structure that unfolds in relation to users' choices and proximity to the key story areas, new directions open in a hybrid linear exploration mode. Mini-stories, events, and characters in ReImagining the Past are inspired by the interviews documented at the National Archive in Abu Dhabi. The starting point of this journey is location of water wells in the proximity of Burj Al-Masirah. Sweet water was a key resource, particularly in the desert, and one of the most essential elements for the life of Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra. User, a young apprentice, embarks on a mission to help bring supplies of water to the residents of the village. Interaction with the guards at the tower and other characters on the path to the island provides information on recent events and main characters of this low-lying coastal land. As women and children prepare for the return of the pearling boats from their final months-long journey, the user learns about the failing business of pearl fishing and regional development of the oil industry. This will be an opportunity to meet the characters and also visit the important social interaction locations, namely the Merchant Umran's Majlis in the Souk area and boat building and repair shop at the Corniche, where stories of the pearl fishing past and tradition will be accessible via various artifacts of the trade. Visiting the Souk area and Wind Tower House of Merchant Abdul Karim will provide insights to trade practices and cultural interaction in this and other parts of the Gulf. A traditional house with a courtyard will be the place where encounter with Jasim and other women of the village showcases activities related to the culture of caring and support of families. Here, around the fireplace, a celebration, singing, and stories of the past ways of life are shared with the community by the elders. This is the time to share hopes and aspirations for a better tomorrow, suggesting the unification of the UAE as an imminent socio-cultural event. From this point, the visit to the village crossfades with the cycle of days and nights, of months and seasons, fast forwarding in time and bringing you back to the present day and celebration of the restored Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra heritage village. This time, the celebration marks the 50th anniversary since the formation of the UAE. Development of mobile computing technologies and advancement of AR and VR platforms during the production of this project have provided an opportunity to reach audiences beyond traditional museum or on-site visitor center venues. In the light of global shift in mobility and social interaction affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, alternatives to the physical visit to sites of cultural heritage need to be considered. This requires us to rethink the ways we design experiences and to find a new balance of digital and physical modes of presentation of cultural heritage sites. Although the original proposal of reimagining the past aimed at presenting the project in situ to the audience of the cultural heritage village of Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra, we have developed plans to deploy it online to a global audience as well. A range of scales from 1 to 50,000 down to the actual size of 1 to 1, and a timeline focusing on the 60s is being used to provide the context and backdrop for situating the story of Al-Jazirah Al-Hamra and its place on the Trucial Coast and in the Gulf. This in turn will provide a great insight to the actual position and location of the points of interest we selected and will enable users to develop a greater sense of spatial orientation during physical visits to this significant site of UAE's cultural heritage. Thank you for your attention, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation.